Hello everybody, welcome to SketchCraft Live. I'm Rob Duenas, and you are not. Check it out. Tonight, I have a question coming from Instagram, so let's go over this. The question is, I kind of took a snappy from the message, so let me just kind of reference here. Here's the question. I have proportion issues and I struggle with my bodies having hit and misses a lot. I don't know why, it just hasn't clicked well with me. However, with your technique, he's talking about drawing in silhouettes, it comes a lot easier for me. I'll show you an example really quick in a minute. I'm also concerned with the other point I made in a previous video, that it's harder to do traditional with this technique. So let me ask you, does this technique still help become better drawing without using drawing in silhouettes? And do you still tend to practice the original way to draw with lines and boxes and such? I really enjoy the style. It's just a little worried if I pursue it, it may not be able to do as much with traditional art. Alright, so let's just go over a few things. This is the images he sent me. I want to preface this a little bit really quick. This drawing definitely looks like a Humberto Ramos Black Hat drawing. So if you're redrawing someone's art, always be certain to give credit. Looks a lot like Humberto Ramos right there. I think I've seen this before, but regardless, let's go over this. Now, in drawing with silhouettes, Rob, can you draw with silhouettes traditionally? The answer is yes. However, my advice would be, if you have a computer, get a printer. Okay? It's really quite simple, because all you need to do is just create an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You know, even if you were drawing 11 by 17, you could either get an 11 by 17 printer or print it in half and lightboard it. But basically, design your silhouettes in, digitally it's easier to do. So I can do it right in Photoshop. Let's just say right now I'm going to come here and let's just make generic action figure pose, right? Right, sort of a generic action figure, cartoon Bruce Timm kind of big, boom, little spit curl, right? So you're like, hey, I kind of like the way that's going. How can I finish it? Well, it's really quite simple. You just take the opacity, you turn it down, and you print that out on a piece of paper. This is what I do every night when I'm doing, even like these roughies, these poses. Like here's the gambit that I did. Here is the, let's see, where's the silhouette? Here's the gambit silhouette. I'm going to set the opacity back up at 100%. Right there, I did a gambit silhouette. You could turn the opacity down or fill it in with white, whatever you want to do, right? And drew right over that to get this version of the details. Actually, I printed this out and drew a construction pose first. The construction pose looks like this. This is actually what I drew on traditional pieces of paper, working out the body pose. I scanned it back in, turned that opacity down, and drew the gambit right over that. So yeah, you can totally draw your stuff traditionally, or set up your silhouettes digitally, print them out, low opacity. I use cheap copy paper. I use the 3-hole drill. That way when you're done, you can put it in a binder. Matter of fact, if I switch right now to my camera, let's go to desktop, real-time drawing, switch to the camera. You can see this right here is the gambit pose that I've printed back. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to knock my whole printer over here. Didn't plan this too well. Let me just get this drawing out, and I'll show you. Wonderful. I have an 11 by 17 scanner, but you don't need one. You can use an 8.5 by 11. See here? This is the silhouette printed on cheap copy paper. I did a construction pose, scanned it back in, turned the opacity down, and drew this guy right over this. No difference. So it's all about iteration, right? All about iteration. Iteration means that you are taking each step at a time and scanning things in, printing them back out, drawing over them. You could lightboard it. I just hate lightboarding. I hate the process of drawing it twice. I like to have the rough sketch right underneath me. When I erase, I like to still have those lines underneath. So you can totally do that. Now, given this guy's Blutzy, given this little piece of art here, what you're kind of doing with the silhouettes kind of makes sense. But like if I took the same pose that you did here, right, and I come over to here, and again, it definitely looks like a Humberto Ramos drawing, but we'll ignore that for a second. Let's say I wanted to do a pose like this. You know, quickly delete some of that stuff. The trick with silhouettes is to stay away from drawing outlines. You really want to focus on construction. That's kind of the whole point of doing it. Like, if you're going to draw a female pose, like you're going to come here, and you're going to kind of work out her leg in silhouette and add a foot, and then maybe, I don't know, let's just tuck them in like this, right? One of the reasons why I do the three-dimensional construction is because I'm trying to make certain that I'm not parodying my style. What that means is if let's say I printed this out and I just started going around and just doing the outline. Like her arm comes here and I'm like, oh, it comes here. This is the bane of art to me. A lot of people's problems, a lot of artists, when they say, Rob, how can I make my art better? I say, well, go back to your construction. Actually come here and develop these as three-dimensional shapes, three-dimensional parts. Here's her back. Draw the center first. A shoulder blade would come out here. Her rib cage would come out here. Turn these into certain shapes. If it twists, like the abs come this way, that means the hips would be here. And I'm trying to actually build this construction out three-dimensionally. And I can wrap it around her body three-dimensionally. And it's really important, as an artist to develop yourself, develop your art three-dimensionally. That you're actually building, you're constructing figures using three-dimensional shapes. And it makes foreshortening way easier, see? You're drawing through objects. And you're underneath the hand here, so you can go and work the thumb. This is why people on Instagram ask me a lot, where do you come up with your idea for your poses? I'm like, I don't have to, because the silhouette, it's there, and then I train my mind, to see inside the silhouette, and then I work out my understanding of anatomy comes from constantly having spent years just drawing things three-dimensionally. And like sometimes things are going to look a little more 2D, than even though they're three-dimensional, they might look a little 2D. That's fine, but at least you did the construction. You did the under drawing. And then you can go and, refine these shapes. And the silhouette's just a guide. It's not, 100% final. You're tracing every little part of it. You're using it as a container. It's like a container. Inside that container, I'm trying to work in the actual character. And maybe instead of bending the arm inward, maybe here, let's do a little hand. Like we can come back here. and kind of develop a little hand silhouette. I find it just way easier to give myself a little bit of a container than to sit here and trying to like build little tiny like skeletons and build things on top. I just found it easier. But can you do it traditionally? Absolutely. You know, use your digital tool set to get you there, to get you basic silhouettes, basic construction. Print them out. Do the construction traditionally. Scan that back in. Resize it. If something's fucked up or that hand needs more work, or you want to kind of go, well, this right here doesn't really match up to where her chest would be, so I need to kind of bring it back in, you know, and go, well, this would actually turn this way and the boob would come that way. You know, it's checks and balances. Like you're giving yourself, you know, the opportunity to make sure your drawing's correct and it's you know it's solid. It's got a solid construction base. You know, I learned how to do this traditionally. I just used to use Sharpies. I used Sharpies, and I would lightboard. So this just saves having to use Sharpies and lightboard and spend hundreds of dollars on markers and have markers everywhere and get high on Sharpie marker, or use Copic markers and waste that kind of ink. So uh, that's my basic advice. That's exactly how I did. Even something flat and dead on like this Vader is done the exact same way. Like Vader here is just a silhouette, you know. Now in this case, I didn't have to print them out and do a construction base because I wanted to keep them a little flat. You can even see here, I did a little bit of a pose, but I'm like, I hate that. You know, Vader should be more like a wraith. So I went from that to, you know, figuring out the parts that I want. And so underneath, I figured out the entire drawing, but I'm only showing the parts that I want to make them look more mysterious, more epic. So you don't need to do everything digitally. You don't need to do silhouettes digitally. You can do them with markers. You can scan them in, erase them. You can use your phone. You can snap it. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be high res. They can be low res. It's just a silhouette. So that would be my advice to you. And also, again, if you're going to redraw stuff from comics, actual poses and faces, always just give a little bit of like reference to the artist who did it because, you know. But again, I look at this, you know, and this to me, you know, has constructural issues. You know, like her hips should be here, you know. If she had a big ass booty, you know, if she had a little booty, it'd be here, you know, like it just, her boobs are kind of huge right there too. Like, you know, you could probably increase the size of her head a little bit. So, it's all about construction, the underdrawing. This is not sexy stuff. This isn't stuff that like gets you tons of views. It's not something that I can go, how to be a better artist in 10 really, you know, how to be a better artist in one step. How about that? Learn construction. Let this be your life for the next 5 years. Like, if every day you're doing this, then you don't have to do it every day 5 years from now. You can, you know, do it a couple times a week. But I still integrate it into all my processes because what happens is if you don't, eventually you'll start to parody yourself. You'll shorthand things too much. You'll start outlining and you'll revert back to these sort of shorthand art styles. I liken it to, if you look at Mike Mignola's art, he's a beautiful artist. His early drawings were very, very constructed. They're very three-dimensional, and now there's sort of like more like watercolor outline drawings where you sort of see a lot of this, and then he sort of makes indentations where shadows would be, and you know, and that's because of years and years and years he's gotten his style down. But you know, I sort of like the original stuff where I'm like, hey, maybe it took a little longer, you know. So, guess I just threw Mike Mignola under a bus, but who the fuck am I? Who cares? So again, you don't need to do everything traditionally. This right here would be more than enough to print out and get going. And if you don't have a printer, you have a monitor, right? Well, guess what? This is like a giant, this monitor right here, check this out. I'm gonna go right to my real-time camera. This monitor is like a giant light board. Watch what happens. I'm gonna grab a piece of paper. This is gonna be amazing, folks. Check this out. You could take your own monitors, not even a Cintiq, just an actual computer monitor, right? Let's turn the opacity all the way up this time so we can see it really strong. And well, we could zoom in, kind of line it up, and then you can come right over here. I'm just going to come here with a Sharpie pen and see how I can just inside here build center, find center, build my little chess piece. We can work out some gloves. We'll give them a quick hand. You know, come over here and build a nice, you know, do a good construction pass. And when you're done with the construction pass, you know, scan that back in, print that back out, and then work all your details on the construction. You know, so it's solid. Don't worry about how long it took you. Just get it right and then worry about speed later. All right, that's my biggest advice to artists. Like everyone's like, how long did it take you? I don't care if it took 4 hours or 40 minutes. If it looks right, then it's done. If it don't look right, then, you know, you fucked up. So again, look at that. Makeshift monitor. You know, and if you don't have a Cintiq, just take a normal monitor, your actual computer monitor, just put a piece of paper right on that fucker, bring it up here, and you know, you'll get it worked out. It's amazing. There's so many things you can do this day and age. So many options. So I see you, Kyle. I'll be back on here in a minute. Let's come back to the live cast or the desktop Cintiq, sorry. And I'll be back here in a hot minute. We got some stuff to do. I got some Vader lines I got to draw, and I got some Batgirl lines I got to draw. So as we get caught back up here on SketchCraft Live, I hope that helps you out. I will talk to you soon. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will answer them, or hit me up on Instagram. All the links are below in the info. Rob at Instagram, SketchCraft. Later. Kyle's going to sleep because he has to be here tomorrow.